Being 9:30, we'll call the meeting to order. Pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the agenda. Any additions or corrections?
The copy you have in front of you has a few minor corrections from what was sent out originally. Carol will not be here today to discuss the finance portion, and action items are the same. And I added one correspondence item. So.
I think, Fred, you had one that you wanted.
Yeah, the second item under closed session, I would ask that that be deleted from the agenda.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Approving of the minutes from the 9th April board meeting and the 16th work group session.
There's one thing I'd like to change in that.
Okay.
File number 17,
Under the work group or the board meeting?
board meeting.
Okay.
That last paragraph, that last sentence I'd like taken out. I don't know if you want me to read it off.
Yeah, please.
It was over Brian and Rhoda Dobeck's conditional use permit for their house. The last paragraph is the board discussed the requirement of deed restrictions when the property is split in a way that would make a non-conforming property in the future. I think that's sufficient. The rest of it, it says the board expressed general support for protecting future buyers in this way, but felt the zoning ordinance should be changed to reflect the requirements before it can be enforced. And I'm not in support of that, and I'm
Right.
just one person too, and I don't know if that, we didn't really debate support one way or the other.
No, that's true.
Yep.
Okay, we'll delete that last sentence from file number 17.
Yeah.
Got it here. Okay. Need a motion to approve with that one deletion?
As amended.
So move.
Second. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm gonna abstain since I wasn't here for the one meeting.
Okay. Opposed? All right. Maybe we should be doing those separately, I suppose, huh?
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah, when we had a member absent, but for one of those.
Either way, I was actually going to propose moving them down to the consent agenda, but so we can do. Either way, it all gets the same results. So.
Okay,
However you wish to handle it,
public comment period.
Chairman.
Is there anybody who wishes to address the board this morning? Okay. And our first one is the auditor treasurer review.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good
Morning.
Morning,
morning.
Donna.
Okay, first just to give you a little bit of a background about how come I'm here a couple times a year. It's because the state auditors require the auditor treasurer to present to their board her information. Couple reasons. Number one is just to give them an idea, of course, how much we have in our accounts, and probably one of the biggest reasons is so that you can look at the information and so you can actually see if there's any insignificant numbers that don't quite look right from the previous presentations. That could result in, like whatever, like funds being missing or whatever. So when you look at this, they kind of assume you're going to look for that kind of thing if there's some big indifference in some amount or whatever. But I do also want to share with the new commissioners that with my investments, like as I do broker exchanges and any new investments with the banks, I know Jeff is on Iceland State Bank with me as per resolution. So every time I make any kind of withdrawal whatsoever, he is required to sign And, with my brokerage, exchanges, Carol Lapham gets an email every time I make a new purchase or cash one in, so she gets the information as well. So it's very, very dual controlled, you might say, so, you know, I don't take anything out of any banks without two signatures. So that's good to know. And, the first thing, is this little information I gave you from Brian Pouzan, our, investment broker from Multi-Bank, and it was just kinda interesting because it kinda reminds me of what it was 8 years ago when I started. The outlook, the growth outlook from January is down about 0.2%, and he told me the other day that he'd be very surprised if I could get 2% come next summer on any investments, and I'm like, shoot, because it was just getting up to 3% for some of the CDs. I mean, some of the basic CDs. I've gotten more than that on like some bonds, you know, in the past. But when I started, some of the bonds were long term, and they were like probably at, you know, up to 4%. And I was excited to get 2%, and now I'm excited to get 3%, and now it's going to go back down to 2%. So that's kind of a not a good thing. But I mean, I've got some, as you can see from the spreadsheet here, the large one. That includes all of my pool cash, and this is as of February 28th, so it's a little bit on the low side because we haven't started getting in a lot of taxes. Now it's quite higher because we have started getting in tax money, but February is a pretty good, I mean, not a real high amount, but the treasurer's balance at the end of the day is $14,934,870.75. And that includes all of the listing of the CDs, from the Eitzen Bank, all the multi-bank CDs, and all the bonds from Raymond James, and the other checking accounts that we currently have for the county. And the investments are also separated out on the very bottom part. It tells how much is in each actual with each broker and with each bank. So the total investments is $11,746,1475, but that total is included in the $14 million. So you might say, well, we have a lot of money tied for investments, but that's not really true, because if you notice, the Eitzen special account is $4,413,706 or $708.61, and that is included. I actually have it highlighted up in the within the spreadsheet here. Mm-hmm. So that is I kind of try to highlight that for you, so you know that money is available. It's in the money market. You can take it out any time, and it's very rarely ever take money out of there. And when I first started, it was about $2 million, but I've kind of crept it up to $4 million. And it's nice because the interest rate right now is, I think it's 1.87%. So that's really been beneficial to the county. The other, the other accounts that are available for withdrawal right now with money market would be the money market account up towards the top, the $700,000. That used to be basically my cash account for the most part, and I would get interest on it. But when the last year when the bank put a little pressure on us to keep more money in the checking account, I had to kind of do some agreement with them to, instead of taking money out of my money market in Eitzen, I just decided to keep more in the main checking account, the one that's above there with the 1.7 million in there. And so I don't really transfer back and forth that much anymore because it's not really worth it. We don't get any interest. So basically, with that said, they aren't charging us anything for our checking account, where they were going to charge us. It was estimated about maybe $700 a month, and I said, well, we're not going to do that. And I didn't really care to change banks at this time. It'd be a lot of expense, and it'd be a lot of headache for the county. So I kind of compromised, and I said we're going to go ahead and use that cashbook account and not transfer back and forth that much. We're just going to keep the money keep the money in there and go from there, so we can, what happens is every time we deposit money and, essentially we would get charged for that, or, any kind of transactions that are done in the bank, they charge so much per transaction. But with that said, this is all waived and we don't get any fees charged
By
whatsoever.
keeping it higher, by keeping it a little higher in there.
Correct, yeah, and they have a report every month that I get that tells us how much the analyzed amount is that we'd have to keep in to avoid service charge, and it's pretty much right in the ballpark with what we're doing right now, so instead of, sometimes you just have to compromise a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's going good so far, and right at the moment anyway, and we'll see if things change. If we end up getting a whole much more money, then I'll have to figure out what else we're gonna do with it, but for right now, it's working. So then also this other sheet here is our fund investments. That is separate from any of the pooled cash. So on the top where the colored amounts are, the road and bridge, human services, general fund, soil and water, and collaborative, they're all totaled out right there at the top and separated and categorized out within the spreadsheet. But for the most part, the road and bridge has had $1,493,600 in there for quite some time, and that is separated out with a couple of CDs with multi-bank and a couple with Heights and State Bank. Another thing I wanted to mention is, I've asked my broker, the multi-bank, as you can see, I have quite a few certificates with them, and his statement to me was, don't worry, because if you ever really need cash fast, he said we can, it'll take about a 2-week period, but we can analyze the certificates that we have on hand currently, and sometimes the market value at the time will be such that you can actually, could be above par, below par, but I could cash them in without any penalties. So if we did need some money for some unknown reason, we can actually probably cash some of those in without any penalties.
And that's the $5,302,000 for
Correct.
the certificates.
Correct, yep. And then lastly is the little sheet here with the cash book totals. And that's kind of interesting because I went back to 2013 through 3/30 of 19, and the quarterly cash totals have been pretty much consistent. Maybe it's a little bit higher right now than they were back in 2013, 14. But I think the back in those years, it was the result mainly came from the flooding, paying back and getting those things straightened out from the floods. But otherwise, it's been pretty consistent from 16. There's high points where the taxes are higher, of course, and that's why you'll see the ups and downs a little bit, but for the most part, it's pretty consistent. Okay, any questions at all?
How much is the minimum that we have to have at the bank in order to?
I mean, before you get charged? It depends on, because at different times of year, we do more transactions with taxes and so on and so forth. It's pretty much about 3 million, about 3.5 million is what they require on a normal average time of year, 3.5.
3.5 in the checking account.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, in all the counts together, so they add them all up, and there's the main branch at Bank of the West will determine and analyze it and see if it's
Is
override.
that because of volume of checks that we write?
Pretty much, yeah. We do a lot of checks through our main account. A lot of we transfers, all the different like they offer. I do all my transfers online, so all my online banking is included in that. I don't write checks when I transfer money. I just transfer. We transfer e-recording, state money, public health. We have several transfers every week, and I transfer those all online. And so all that stuff is included in the analyzed amounts, and so we don't get charged for anything. Wires or if I wire money for investments, we don't get charged for any of that stuff either.
Is there a reason that we don't use merchants?
That we don't use what?
Merchants.
Oh, merchants? Not necessarily. I think we've always been with Bank of the West, and I know they had approached me, when we were having some issues, last year, and they said, we'd welcome you to come over and talk to us, and I guess I did, send them what my accounts look like. But like I said, it's, I think it's hard to believe there wouldn't be some sort of service charge anywhere you go. It's something I've thought about. I thought about it real long and hard, and I talked to Carol about it. We discussed it, and I think to move everything over, and it would be, it would be.
I'm not talking everything, I mean,
Oh, just your
I
main
think right
account?
now, out of everything that we're talking about here, we got $5,000 over there.
Okay, you mean just the main checking? You're talking about?
No,
Yeah.
And
Money market.
Money
main-
markets or anything,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean,
Well, it looks like she,
they never really come up with a,
yeah.
if there would be like charges or what the charges would be, but I guess I kind of, I talked with Steve from the bank quite extensively, and we kind of decided to try this out and see how it worked. I think the interest that I'm not getting on this, the one that I showed you with the 700,000, the amount of interest I'm losing per month might be 90 to 150 on an average month, so if you take that times the 12, it's gonna be what a service charge would be, so I think that pretty much it's a wash, cause it was only like, the Bank of the West, interest rate was like 0.10, and I know the rates are quite a bit less over the Bank of the West, so 0.10 and figure out, and a lot of times I would try to keep as little as I could over there, but at the same time need money to transfer back and forth for operating too. So, I think the wash is probably worth it right now.
Not, excuse me, I'm not familiar with multi-bank securities, is that?
It's a broker, yep, it's, I think it's Missouri, I think, Michigan. And, they've been around for a long time. Before I started, I think they've been with the county for, I'm just gonna say at least 20 years, at least.
But that's their name, it's not a combination of banks, it's,
They offer securities and CDs from different banks, so like, when I purchase these certificates, they're actually with a different bank, but
so
they're
then
through the
they,
broker.
okay.
Yeah,
They go.
they're all with all sorts of different banks. So I have to be real careful when I buy something. If I buy a certificate with multi-bank, and Raymond James, I have to make sure that, or Wells Fargo, I have to make sure that, we don't have the same FDIC number, so. But I try to kind of stay away from using common names except for multi-bank, they monitor that for you, and actually, I'm in the process of sending, multi-bank all my investments so that they can make sure that there's nothing, but I'm 100% positive there isn't anything pulled up, but you never know. I mean, sometimes if the banks change names, you might run into a FDIC number where it might be the same. I mean, it can happen very easily, but it's never happened to me yet, but then you won't.
So where in here is, the money for the highway shop fund? Is there a special fund, or is that all?
The highway department money?
Yeah.
That is on this sheet here. And that is, they have 2 certificates with multi-bank, 2 with Eitzen, and then the money market with 1.1 million. And that's all, specified for highway,
So
Run Bridge,
the money market ones then, right?
1.1.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
1.1?
Yep, and right now it's earning 1.87% interest. And that's just the money market, it can be taken out anytime.
But there's more than 1.4936 in the highway department fund, overall.
Overall.
This is the highway department's investments, but they got
Correct.
more money than that over in the,
Right, and if Carol was, she would
Oh.
probably tell you that they actually have more money in the fund, but it's mixed in with,
This here.
The other
yeah,
investments.
correct.
Yeah, so
So
like
this
that
is-
4.4 from Eitzen or something.
Yeah, so the
That's liquid.
fund investments, what you see here is what I've only got for them currently right now, but the most of the money is mixed in.
Yeah.
And I was gonna mention too that, a couple of the CDs on top there, the Eitzen State Bank, we have the option to trade up for every 2.5 years but I have to remember to do that. So a couple of them now, there was one I had marked June 12, 17, it's actually June 12, 23. But, when the due date comes, but most of those are now 3% because I've traded them up to the higher rate of interest. And you can do that one time at 2.5 year, interval. And then when you trade it up, it actually gets renewed for another 5 years, but again, you can either cash it in or you can trade it up in 2.5 years. So that's a really nice, function that they have there for the certificates at Eitzen Bank. So it's nice to be able to do that. But you just have to remember to, at the 2.5 year interval, to trade it up. So it's one of those things you can mark your calendar. But anyway, so everything's going good, and I think since I've started, there's only one bank that I got a call on from Multi-Bank. I think that was the first year I was here. There was a bank that was closing, and the broker called and said, we're gonna pull that certificate, the bank is closing. Cashed it in, and that was it, last I heard of it. Otherwise, never been any troubles or with my brokers or anything. Do you have any other questions?
Any other questions for Donna? She did a good report for us here. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Donna.
Thank you.
Michelle, welcome.
Good morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
Well, my name is Michelle Bitzy. I am actually the Outreach Services Coordinator for SEMCAC, but I'm also the case manager here for Houston County. So I have two offices, one in Rushford, and I spend a lot of time here in Caledonia. And I don't know how familiar you are with SEMCAC, but it's a community action agency. We work with 7 counties in southeast Minnesota. And as you can see, we have a lot of programs, which is the Head Start, Energy Assistance Program, Housing, Transportation, Senior Dining, Senior Advocacy, the Outreach Program, which includes the food shelves, and then weatherization. And we do offer all those in Houston County. So I think I'm just here to just kind of give you an update, and just be aware of our services and kind of that we are continuing our services and it's going very well. Lots to offer here in Houston County. I don't know if you have questions or if you'd like me to just kind of,
Are you settled as far as the Caledonia site for meals?
yes, and we do that at Elsie's
So
right now,
that's,
so it's been going very,
it's
very
going
well. So I haven't heard anything about anything changing, so.
I know there was some issue as far as
Yes.
finding a site.
Yes, so it's been going well. And I think clients, what I hear, have been liking Elsie's, and parking is good and, just much better than the school was for all those purposes.
Good.
And just the food shelves, you know, SEMCAC has 4 food shelves, just the one here in Houston County, which is actually here in Caledonia. And that has been going well. We're always looking, you know, we're mostly funded with donations and things. We don't get a lot of state funding, so that's always kind of that challenge of that. I've been with SEMCAC and with the outreach program for now 3 years, and it's been great to see that this community, Caledonia and Spring Grove, La Crescent, Houston, very good volunteer-wise, very good givers, so it's really nice to see.
The donations as far as the food shelves, typically you prefer cash to, I mean, you
Right.
can go farther with a
Right,
dollar than.
definitely. We can order, yes, from Channel One in different places, much, more with the money than somebody
what
can
you
go to the
need
grocery
instead
store,
of-
right? We do, and we have a new food shelf manager at our here in Caledonia, and we're just in the process of kind of, for the summer and the fall, we're gonna start going out. And she's gonna go do some businesses talks and just different things of ways that they could help us. I think we have a lot of questions, they call, and if we can stagger it a little bit of what they can do and help us with would be great, so it's really nice to see.
The 447 households that received assistance with the utility payments during, how does one find out about that? I mean, how-
To get assistance, you
Right.
mean? It is, the state of Minnesota sends out, so if you're already have received in the past, or they feel that you're, receiving something, you will get the application and things in the mail
Oh.
directly to you.
Okay,
A lot of word of mouth, with the county services, or they would call us. We try to have applications divvied out wherever we can get them, so that they know that, a lot of posters, and
Okay.
just putting out as much information as we can.
good, thank you.
Our office does a lot of helping fill out those applications, or just get them to the right place with questions, so.
On the weatherization package is, I'm gonna just follow down the line there, where 7 households had their homes weatherized, 13 had received energy-related repairs. Is there a criteria for that? I mean,
Yes.
they have to stay in the house for a certain period of time
Yes,
after
there's an
that?
application process and there is a requirement. I don't know the whole details since I don't work with that department directly, but yeah, there's a whole restrictions or, things that they have to follow too. Same with the housing, kind of the loan program and those type of things. There's a lot of, things that they have to do.
With regard to the Head Start, I'm just following this
Yeah.
program down the line. Have we seen a growth or a decline in Head Start?
A growth. The need, doesn't say, our class sizes are pretty much staying the same because we can only, do so much, but the need is out there, so we get a lot of, people on the waiting list, that type of thing. Cause here, in Houston County, we only have, La Crescent one and the Caledonia sites for the actual Head Start program, so.
So if the need is there, could you open another site?
We could, it's always funding and money, those type
Yeah.
of things, and you have to prove the longevity to the state too, that so you have to basically qualify and you have to ask, that type of thing, so I think it's potential.
Mm-hmm.
But,
When I look at the transportation numbers down here, the 12,094 rides provided by Rolling Hills Transit and the 2742 rides for the volunteer driver program, they call
yes.
SEMCAC, or is there a
They call-
number?
They call SEMCAC and it's a 1-800 number, so there's the actual dispatch office is in Casson,
Okay.
and they dispatch all the drivers and all the information, so
How many buses run Houston County?
just the one.
Just the one. And then the drivers, volunteer drivers,
The
on
co-
given days that they drive, or?
Yeah, so there's the bus that you see going around, that has one driver consistently every day, that does all the transportation type of things, and then the volunteer drivers, right, it just depends on,
But they're local, I mean,
Right.
Caledonia has some volunteers, Spring
Right.
Grove has some volunteers.
right.
That way.
But that bus comes out of Casson?
No, the actual bus is here
Stays
in
here.
Caledonia, each county has their
Their
own
own
bus.
bus, yeah.
Right, which is how the dispatching goes through Casson office.
Okay.
Yeah, the main office, cause everything else in Rushford, the main office is Rushford,
Mhm.
but transportation, the main office is in Casson.
Yeah.
When
Just 'cause
they
do-
volunteer to drive, do they get mileage reimbursement, or is it a total volunteer? No.
I don't
Oh.
know that answer, but I can I'll find out.
I was just curious.
Yeah,
Some,
I don't know, to be honest. Is it?
okay.
Thank you.
What did you say?
It
It is mileage
It is.
reimbursement.
Oh, it's mileage, okay.
As long as John made a comment here, SEMCAC and Houston County services, I mean, you work together, interrelate.
Definitely.
Big time.
especially outreach, I can verify that we do a lot, worker together kind of type things, a lot of referrals back and forth, a lot of the same clients, so we have to access our programs, they have to be denied by the county for their services first, emergency-wise, so we have to make sure we don't, no double dipping, those type of things, and try to use those services first. So a lot of communication back and forth.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Have you found that donations are dipping or?
They're not as good as they used to be honest. I mean, it's just becoming more and more difficult. And I think that's every county, we're seeing that. It used to be, I think, they tell me in the different way in the back, people would, for a lot of people, would give. So like when passing away type of situations like that, or just give lump sums, throughout the year or once yearly, we don't see that as much. So yeah. Numbers
So many
up.
requests out there, though.
I know Houston County gave 5,000. I notice other counties don't do that.
No. We have, Dodge County, Mower County, those type of things, they do pretty well because they have those larger businesses, that kind of support. Hormel does, great things, of course, for that area and that type of thing. Where Houston County don't necessarily
Doesn't
have
have
a
all
lot of
that.
those kind of type things, so. I mean, they do, I should say, Mike does,
Right.
different what they can,
But there's not the numbers.
so.
Thank you.
And still have a interim director, correct?
We do.
Yeah, so
Right.
any headway there with,
From what I hear is they're gonna be doing interviews soon.
Okay.
So, I'm
Great.
thinking that means
Yep.
in the next couple months, I would hope.
all right.
Yeah, so we're in the interim of the
Yep.
director and things for the
Yeah, they
agency.
hired a search service or whatever to.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes,
Okay,
so fingers crossed
Yep.
for a good one.
all right.
Yeah, so, okay, any further questions, or?
No, thank you for
Thank
coming.
you very
Thank you
much.
for having
Yep.
me.
And-
Thank you.
Michelle.
Enjoy the desert.
I don't see Olivia here, so we will press without her for now. That was, the governor made the declaration of the emergency for the weekend of things, and so she's trying to consolidate any inputs from the townships and cities and businesses that fall into that, so.
It
we'll-
sounded like some of the flooding was gonna get included in that?
Yes, yeah, that opened it up to
That's
some of
what
the
she's
flooding as
trying to
well.
do,
so,
yeah.
yep. Brian, do you have anything from the highway
I'll vote
perspective
for that.
with damages, or it's really been kinda,
Yeah.
Yeah, on the county system, there's nothing that we would qualify for.
Yep.
Maybe, maybe 2.5 hours worth of overtime, almost like $50 an hour to take what we go after. That's very, very minimal. As far as additional stuff that the council's might be able to go after, the cities, I prefer to let me speak something.
Yep.
Spoke to her a couple times, and there's some potential, I know she had some on those too, as far as what would ultimately qualify one-to-one, those handful of times, the, 1.5 month window.
yep. Okay,
I know Houston Township got hit pretty hard on Swede Bottom there. Their seal coat got ripped out and was pretty ugly, and that could add up to quite a bit of money.
And I think she reached out to them.
Yep.
all right, so I will circle back with her and send out an update with what she has. So,
Sounds good.
all right.
Moving on to the consent agenda. Did everybody review it? Or do you want to read through it, or? I personally didn't have any questions on it. You like to go through it individually? Or do we want a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Action items. Number one, consider approving the resolution to ratify the Joint Powers Board agreement to terminate the Southeast Minnesota Water Resources Board. I need a motion and a second, and then we can discuss.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion?
Now, you got the information on that, I think, 2 weeks ago that I handed out. I think Water Resources Board sent the same stuff to everybody.
Yeah.
If there's any questions, I'll try to.
No, that really helped to have it
Clarify.
ahead of time. And it was also in our board packet too.
Yeah,
so-
yeah.
so-
That was from, that was what the Water Resources Board said.
Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Okay. Number two, consider approving resolution 1909 noxious weed appeals committee. And I think Amelia is gonna explain that, if you wouldn't mind. Even though we did get that in our packet also.
Okay, so, we are required by the state to, or the county board is required to designate a noxious weed appeals committee. You'd have two options, you could either choose, it's a county commissioner, they'd appoint a county commissioner or municipal official, and then they'd also have to have a landowner in the county. Or the second option is to go with the Board of Adjustment. I guess I've kind of, at meetings and stuff, we've talked about this, and it seems like other counties choose to go with the Board of Adjustment. It kind of fits within their role anyway, or it's a logical fit for them. And so that's why I kind of decided to go down that route as well, and wrote it up accordingly. And then there is, if they do, I mean, we can't charge a fee up front like you would for the Board of Adjustment, to look at a variance or as far as zoning, but we can go back and put it on the tax roll, for any time spent.
So you would receive a complaint about the weed problem or something, and then you would forward to the Board of Adjustment, or what?
Our first step is just to work with them.
Okay.
And then there's some formal, processes and forms we'd have to write up to actually get it to progress to the point where where they'd have the option of appealing it. It doesn't sound like it gets to that point quite often from what I've heard from other counties. Like I said, our first option obviously is to just kind of work with them and see if we can get anywhere.
Have we, go ahead. Have we had any instances in this county where we've had to go through a process with an individual or a corporation or whatever?
I guess prior to me starting, I don't know what all went on. I don't think it was just a complaint-driven system, and it didn't sound like they'd had a ton, or any for that matter. I guess Rick never really mentioned anything. I had one complaint last year about wild parsnip. It was too late in the year though, where if they were to actually go through and cut it, they would have just been seeding it out. So we didn't do anything at that point. I will be following up with them then this spring.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
I know the townships are looking at this as they'd like to clean up their own first before they start going out talking to property owners.
Yeah.
As far as the road ditches and stuff, get them under control. And then, look out at the properties and farms and stuff and see if there's a problem.
Yeah, and that's understandable.
Yeah.
So.
Is there a good product for this parsnip to?
They just kind of came out with a new, they've been doing some research, and they think the problem is you have to do everything at the right time. And I think some of the townships maybe share people, or and they have, last year it sounded like they had a hard time, finding people to spray, and everybody's always busy at the same time, and so, it's a biennial, and so one year it's just a rosette, and I think they have good luck if you spray it at that point, and then if you catch it at certain stages, they just found, I think, that if you you would mow it once and then it'd come back, as it comes back, hitting it at a certain point in that second flowering stage also, is helpful. But it just comes down to, you know, somebody having the time to do it when you need to.
So does the county contract our responsibility, or?
No, they do their own.
Ms. Barnes, so you
Right.
can probably comment to that more. They did a
Yes,
lot of
we-
spraying with you.
Yeah, we do our own spraying, we just have a tank on the back of the tractor that we go out there and we spray. And that wasn't very efficient, we could only get 2 miles up the road, we had to turn around, go back and reload. Got a different sprayer setup now that we set up last year. We spray, historically up until a few years ago, we did about half the system done a year, so we'd never get the entire system done back-to-back years. Now we're trying to do the entire system, and we can do it all in about 3 weeks. We cannot spray for all the townships though with our licensure. Townships need to have their own employees to spray, or they need to hire someone that has the commercial applicator's license. So the townships are kind of on their own, and timing wise, it is a very small window when you can actually spray that does the most benefit. You can spray in the spring, you can spray in the fall, but it's a tight window to capture some of these weeds. Well, especially if you miss it, there's thousands of seeds in each plant, so if you have one plant that gets missed, it's gonna spread the herd.
I know at the weed meeting, Pat said that if some townships wanted to use that old sprayer, it'd be a possibility to rent it or whatever.
Use the old one, and in time, you know, I think maybe that as the county, we can look at, you know, do we want potentially going out our new rig, to townships to utilize? At this point, it's so new and there's so many little things with it that we don't wanna do that. But the old one, yeah, definitely open to a lot of townships.
Good.
Part of that.
One, if, it's like you, Amelia, were saying that it's kind of timing is everything as far as this is concerned, so if the county's working on ours, we don't have the machine available to let somebody else use it, so we can meet our timing periods in that regard. By using Board of Adjustment, I mean, they get paid X number of dollars for a meeting. I mean, some kind of a pay structure as far as being the weed review committee or board?
Well, it would only be if the appeal is upheld, and then we, like I said, then we could assess the time spent out on site and all of that. I guess I didn't look into as far as what you're allowed as an hourly wage, but then that would all, you don't pay it up front, it would get paid on the back end, because it all goes on their tax roll on the real estate tax.
We aren't budgeted for it at the present time, for them to take over the
For
weed,
Board of Adjustment.
for Board of Adjustment to be doing that.
Ye-
I mean, this is new, so it's not in the
Yeah.
budget, but, you know, that.
No, it's not in the budget, and like I said, going
then-
into it, they wouldn't get paid, we'd get paid on the back end of it.
So it's gonna either be the Board of Adjustment, or it'll be a committee of a landowner and commissioner.
Yep.
And then there's training for this? I mean, do you have to be certified to be a weed inspector? Do you have to know, I mean, I assume you
Well,
gotta know what the weeds look like.
Amelia is the weed inspector.
Yeah, they'd be kind of working with me, so it's more or less to see if they have grounds to stand on in their appeal.
Yep.
The, like, groundwork or whatever is on my end. It would just be if you send them this letter saying that, you know, the county's telling you need to clean up your wild parsnip, and they don't think that they need to, then they could appeal that, or appeal the cost. I see, cause I can actually, just hire it done, and then it'd be billed on their property tax, if they don't work with us, and so then they could appeal that.
Assessed to their property.
Assessed,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've talked to the Board of Adjustment, they're willing to take this on. It really wouldn't be a separate meeting for them. Right now, we think the workload would be in conjunction with their regular meetings, correct?
Right, yeah, I just wrote it up as, you know, if we need it, it'll just be added to a regular Thursday night meeting, there'll be no special meeting. I suppose there would be, there does have to be a site visit, but I guess that is no different than what they currently do with some of their variances.
Is this the way like Fillmore and Winona County do it too?
I'm not sure those two, this kind of Wabasha, it's more, you know, western part of the state, Wabasha, Faribault, LeSueur counties.
Okay.
Our whole district, for the ag inspectors kind of runs the southern half of the state,
Okay.
so, I don't know that Fillmore has that, I mean, you know, we're kind of in the same boat where they're just kind of getting,
It
they just
started.
delegated an ag
Yep.
inspector too, and so they're just getting started as well. And Winona County kind of does something different.
Okay.
I believe with theirs.
Just curious.
So if there is a complaint, you go check it.
She does all the legwork.
Yep, and
Yeah.
I'll work with them try to work with them first. Ideally, we can just get them to comply,
Right.
before we'd actually,
You call that young lady from the state for assistance then, or?
do we get any money from the state?
No, I mean, if you have a complaint, if there's an issue, you know, the gal that did the program,
Oh,
does she come and assist?
yep, I always have them as a resource. We also have, another one out of Red Wing. He does primarily seeds, but he's always there for a resource too,
Okay.
for any noxious weeds.
This is asked out of naivety as in terms of how this, but can this parsnip be dug out?
I think that is a not viable option. The problem is that you get so much of it that it just would take a
You'd be
lot.
busy.
Yeah. You'd
It's
spend-
thick, huh?
Yeah. So it's just,
Very small problem.
yeah.
It sneaks in from the roadways, people's lanes.
It started in the road ditches for some reason. I
It's carried in.
it's like, it's, somebody just drove along the road and seeded it.
Exactly.
Well, I asked last year, and now I don't recall, I saw a lot of this, like, floral,
Oh, that's the
Oh.
wild cucumber.
Wild-
That's
Yeah,
wild
that's a wild
cucumber.
cucumber.
That's not,
That's not a big problem?
no,
It
it
was just
doesn't
a-
kill anything.
Yeah, and it was just a perfect year for it. It
Yeah.
likes it hot and humid,
Wet.
and so it just exploded last
Yeah.
year.
That's an annual, not a perennial.
Yep, and it's super, it looks like it might crowd out trees, but, by the time that cucumber is really blooming, the trees are starting to put their energy, you know, it's approaching fall,
roots.
and so they're putting their energy into their roots. And so, cucumber doesn't really, I think they said it's very rare that it would actually kill a tree, even though that's what it appears.
It's thick.
To maybe be doing, and it's actually really light, so you can just go and pull it, you know, it doesn't need to be sprayed or anything, just pull it out, it's just an annual.
I did remember something from them.
So we have a motion to approve the noxious weed appeals
Need a
committee.
motion.
Wait a minute.
Need a motion.
We need a
Oh,
motion.
we need a motion.
Yeah.
I would make that motion. Approve that.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Did we specify which
The Board of Adjustment.
Yeah.
one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks a
you.
million.
Thank you.
The next three are the next ones are for Brian to present. So we'll hear his side of the story and then we'll do the motion. We did get that in the packet too, though.
You did get the two items from yesterday.
Yeah, in front of you,
Oh, yeah,
you
we
have
have
the
the-
actual, the
Yeah.
bid information in front of you. Yeah,
Okay.
and that's in the package.
Yeah. So the first item will be approving the low bid for CP 2019-07, which is the bituminous seal coat, fog seal, and pavement markings on County Stated Highway 327 and History Lane. We received 3 bids on this project. The engineer's estimate was $478,686.98. The low bid was Farner Asphalt Sealers, $475,554.32. So the low bid came in slightly under the actually we received 4 bidders, but low bid came in slightly under the estimate. Our budgeted amount for this year was $400,000 for the seal coating, plus we had some money for striping. This contract does have about $22,000 worth of striping, so we're about $50,000 over the original budgeted amount for this year. Spoke with the administrator about this project. We could have been within budget, but we'd have to cut out 3 miles worth of seal coating. And to do that, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to not do the entire roadway. When we did the paving project or the bidding for the paving project on County Road 249, that came in about $300,000 under the estimate, so we'd like to use some of that money that we essentially over budgeted on that roadway towards some of the seal coating on the maintenance side. So, so my recommendation is to approve Farner Asphalt Sealers. This would also include, as I mentioned, History Lane, which is over at the county fairgrounds. That added a few $1,000s to the actual project.
How many?
I think it was about 2,500 to the project, so not a very big cost, but still something.
But their bid actually came in lower than your estimate.
Yeah, slightly, 0.65% under the estimates, so real close.
Now that ADA compliance bid was high too.
Yep, that was higher. That was state aid money, a different funding source. Seal coating is county funded venture that we pay for all the seal coating projects in this county with our county funds,
So
county
the
levy.
249, okay.
Yep. Yeah, so kind of look at that from the funding standpoint, what aspect of the budget it affects.
Move to approve 07.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
The next item is approve project CP 2019-06, which is the crack filling various county highways. On the top of the abstract, it says 2019-05. 06 is the correct number. So we had 2 quotes on this. Engineer's estimate is $50,400. Farner Asphalt Sealers was the low quote at $52,200. We budget $50,000 each. We budget $50,000 for in 2019. What we will do is what we typically do is that we will cut the contractor off when they get close to the budgeted amount, not the actual amounts. So we might cut them off at about 28,000 pounds worth of material instead of getting to that full 30,000. So we'll cut them off at the actual dollar amount.
So the idea is you're gonna hold pretty close to the 50,400 this budget.
I plan on holding on to 50,000 even, which was our budget amount, and that's pretty easy to do on the crack sealing. You only get so many cracks, and you stop and do the rest
You're
next
done,
year.
you're done.
Kind of hard not to keep going though, isn't it?
You can keep going all year long.
Forever. Move to approve 06.
I'll second it.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
The next project is, we solicited quotes for project CP 2019-02. It's pavement marking on various highways around the county, along with within the cities of Caledonia and La Crescent. We received 4 quotes. Engineer's estimate was $71,276.80, and the low quote was Farner Asphalt Sealers LLC out of Eau Claire, $74,287.56. So this came in 4.22% over our estimate. Some of this cost is will be billed back to the city of La Crescent, city of Caledonia. The county's portion is $70,985.99. Overall, our striping budget for this year was $100,000, so we have $71,000 here. We had $20,000 within the seal coat project, so we're actually a little bit under our budget amount for striping. What the striping entails on the county side is pretty much doing all of the center line stripes on every county road that's paved, along with doing the bike lanes within the city of La Crescent, and the crosswalks within all the municipalities that have crosswalks. So no fog lines this year.
I do have a question with regard to Caledonia. That's after the County Highway 3 project is done. Are we striping for, like, the no parking bus lanes and stuff in front of the elementary school?
Yep, so we'll park, or that striping is included with that project, but we'll stripe between the two curb extensions. That entire length will have that white fog line stripe.
Okay. Does this include Winnebago too? County 5?
We're not adding any existing white stripes, so whatever's out there currently for the
center line.
The center line will be redone on Winnebago, yes, but not the fog line.
Any other discussion?
I'll move to approve 02.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Okay, the final item I have then is consider approving a transfer of airport entitlement funds from Houston County to the city of Fairmont, with agreement being to repay the funds back to Houston County in 2022. We talked about this at the airport commission meeting that we had about a month and a half ago. At that time, we were looking at transferring, Fairmont was looking for $300,000 to $450,000. Since that time, they said they only need $150,000. So we're kind of coming in with a lower term. The airport commissioner recommended transferring $300,000, getting $150,000 back in 2022, getting $150,000 back in 2023. So we just cut off that second half of that. City of Fairmont approved the transfer agreement yesterday at their city council meeting. So there's two different documents in here that need approval. The first one is the FAA approval of agreement for the transfer of entitlements. That'll need to get approved by the county. What we would do is we would transfer $75,286 in 2017 money. We'll transfer $74,717 of 2018 money. That money, if we don't use it, we will ultimately lose it. It goes back to the FAA, and then they can decide where it goes. So this way we can decide where we're going to give it to, and they'll get it back to us. Once that's approved by the board, I'll have the board chairman approve that. We'll have our county attorney sign it. The second agreement, we don't have the signed version back from the city of Fairmont. I'm expecting to get that today from the city. So I'll have the county board chairperson, Ms. Walter, sign that once we receive it. So.
Brian, we've done this before. Are we all clear at this point? We don't have money somewhere else, or?
We have loaned money out to other airports. We have not received everything back yet. The city of Moorhead has some entitlement money to get back to us. We haven't had a need to get that money back yet. If we get it back and we don't have a project to spend it on, we get it back just to give it right back to the FAA. So it's better to let them keep it until when we really need it. We've transferred some to the city of Winona, city of Moorhead, and we were going to do city of Albert Lea, although ultimately that one did not get executed because they found a different funding source. So.
There's no interest involved in any of these?
No interest. It's not sitting in our bank account. The FAA holds the money until you do the project, then they reimburse for the expense. So it's really...
You're just shuffling it? We're
just shuffling money around. It's in our interest. We get it in the future when we need it, and we don't really lose out on something that we need at this time. So.
Okay, thanks.
I'll move approval.
I'll second that.
Is that approval of both the FAA and the city of Fairmont agreements? Both?
Do you need two separate motions?
I think they can be together.
Okay,
if you want to do it separate either way.
Okay, one motion.
Yeah.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
That's all I have.
All right.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Brian?
All right.
At this time, we need a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Can I ask a question? Well,
Yes.
wait for a second before I can.
Second.
We're gonna go into closed session. I don't know the people that are here, if they're gonna come back or if they had something they wanted to get done before we went into this.
It's up to you if you'd like to do
The public
closing
comment?
public comment first, or if you
You
wanna
wanna do
stay.
discussion
in order.
items and public comment, and then we'll go into closed session? and-
Sure. That's where the consensus of the board is. Okay, let's go
Okay.
through,
Just ask.
Table the motion then?
we'll table that motion at this
Yeah,
time,
table it. Yeah.
and we'll go to discussion items. The Smith correspondence we got in our packet.
Yeah, just, that came in the mail, so I didn't have a chance to put that in the board packet, so sharing that here. Essentially just a rundown of all the, like you heard with SEMCAC, all the programs that, the Southern Minnesota Initiative Fund supports, and a request to continue that, allocation when it comes time for funding season, so you have that for you.
Administrator updates.
Just a couple quick things, and I'll make this quick so we can move on to other things, but we've had some good discussions with Enterprise Rental Car on our vehicle lease program, so we're getting that moving. We will have them back out again at the end of May for some training on how the maintenance side of things and the fuel card side of things and all that will work before we get our vehicles. We're expecting the first two vehicles will be the patrol vehicles that we ordered, the Dodge Durangos, yep. In June, July, right now is the closest estimate we have on them, and then the other three SUVs that we ordered for a variety of zoning and variety of uses in the July-August timeframe. Still working with them on pickups for the highway department. The highway department is looking at if the only thing left available is in the 19 models is some Dodges. If they want to stay with the Chevys, then we're waiting until the 2020 year. So they're debating. Oh, Brian walked out. They're debating which way they want to go with that, and then we'll circle that up. But overall, things are going well with the program, and it's now the administrative stuff underneath to make sure everything, all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed to get it in place. So I'll have more on that in the future, and I'll stop there. We'll save the rest for another time.
Okay, commissioner report.
I haven't had any commissioner-related meetings in the last 2 weeks, so I have nothing to report. I'll have more next time, though. Yeah, it's going to be a busy couple of weeks.
Finance got canceled this morning because Carol's got a funeral, so there's nothing to report on that.
I don't have anything either, just that I went to the township meeting. That's it.
I would just mention that Teresa and I were at, we talked about the initial meeting in La Crescent about people who had complaints, I guess you could say, or questions about their assessment, and the follow-up meeting was last night, and Teresa and I were there, and as were our representatives from the assessor's office. After the meeting, I spoke with Bill Waller, the county, or the city administrator, and Skip Weezer, the city attorney, and they were very happy with the county's part in this, in the meeting. I had to leave early for a flood-related issue, but Teresa stayed and said that it continued to be run smoothly, and so that was a good outcome.
It was. Any other
I'm
things?
going to add to that I had one person from Caledonia who called me as the county representative for Caledonia because they'd gone to the city and they weren't happy with the result. The biggest thing about that is they had a huge increase in their taxes because the valuation went up 60%. They didn't come and argue it last year, so when the time frame was, so there really wasn't anything they could do if they wanted to take it to tax court. They went through the Minnesota property tax refund form and couldn't figure out that, said my income's too high. There is a special refund on the back page, on the second page. I did that for them. It's $378. This particular party is going to get in refund over half of what their increase was. But There's a lot of people that don't understand that's on the back of the form, so.
That was explained, I was at the city of Houston's one too, and there is 2 rebate programs, and one's income related and one's not. So,
Yeah, we need to keep spreading that word to each, because that sounds good.
That's all I got.
I had a workforce development meeting on the day of the blizzard up in Rochester. So we did it over the webinar, over the phone. And every county was there for some reason, all 11 counties. And we do have a new director, a new regional director. It's Ginny Rittman. And she's been with workforce development for about 18 years and then mainly with the youth development part of it. But she's very well qualified to move on, so. And our other administrator that was there, Randy Johnson, is gonna stay on as a consultant for as long as she needs, up to a amount of 17,000 if it's needed. So, and he's excellent too. I have a solid waste meeting tomorrow, which Julie and I are gonna attend. I went to the city meeting that Jack just spoke of. They had 43 properties that they reviewed one by one in a very organized fashion, and like our Leilani and Cindy were there, and they had reviewed all these properties except for the 3 on Shore Acres, which they couldn't get to. And so it went real well. Most went down some, and some were no change, but it was very well run. They also talked about they're starting that 7th Street project that we're going half on. They're gonna do the concrete this week is what they're hoping for, this coming week. And then in June, do the signals. So that's moving on. And I went along with Eric to that township annual meeting too. I think we discussed that before, so. All right, any other?
Well, I would just mention to the assessor's office that the sheriff does have a boat.
Okay. No, they're gonna be reviewed in the future.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
and that was put in.
aren't there 1 or 2 that will come to the county board too? If
They were told, I told them that the date was June 18th, and there might be some that come to us, and they have to have,
if they weren't happy
If they weren't
with the
happy with
resolution
that.
that
they can
was.
come to the county board.
then we're next.
Yeah.
Just one thing to add, just a reminder for Commissioners Arnold Burns, we've got at 1 o'clock, we've got our advisory committee meeting for the comprehensive land use plan group, so.
Okay.
For the which group?
The comprehensive land use plan advisory
Oh,
committee.
okay.
Public comment, closing public comment. Anybody wish to address the board at this time? All right.
Now we bring the motion back off the table.
Yes. So at this time, we need a motion to, or do you want to
We had
recess for a moment, or are you good? Ready to move on?
Sure.
Okay. Need a motion to go into closed session then? Is that what you just
Yeah,
said, Fred?
yeah, we had
That's
what I just said.
bring it
More-
That, we just
more or
brought
less.
back up, and it's been seconded. All in favor of going into closed session?
Aye.
It's 10:38. Need a motion to come out of closed session.
I would move to come out of closed session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Turn the mics back on.
No, we don't need to. We only have one more motion to do, right?
We'll see if anybody's there to come
Yeah,
in.
see if anybody cares.
We
Ray
already
will
opened the
probably
public
come in.
comment period.
No,
Oh, you already had it.
Yeah. and the bond goes to-
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brent. See you this afternoon.
Well, Craig's gotta come in for his coat.
Well, here he comes. We were betting on you, Craig.
All right. So just to summarize for Craig, we discussed the property transaction and have agreed to, or have decided to continue to negotiate and work on it. So no,
This is a potential purchase for county purposes?
correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any other business to come before the board this morning?
I move adjournment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.